So welcome back, and once again on the Facebook Marketplace, I saw a deal. So the seller wanted $150 for this. It was a i5 6500, an RX 460, mouse, monitor, keyboard, 16 gigs of DDR4, and it has storage, which was not a bad deal. I think it's a 500 gig SSD. So the seller wanted $150. I offered $100. He agreed, and that's where we're going to get today. So it's about 40 minutes away, which is not terrible. And while we're there, also see what else is out there, but also spend time with the wife. You know, that part. Got to do that. I've been noticing a lot lately because of the lack of Windows 11 support with these older PCs that people are practically, giving these computers away. Last week I picked up a steal of a deal for $200 for multiple PCs, and that was one of the reasons. Just cannibalizing them alone is worth it in the sense that we could get memory, we could get storage, case, power supplies, and that is worth it. But even then, there is a way that, there are ways that you can still run Windows 11 even though it doesn't have that security, whatever thing you call it, or we can go the Linux route. So I've been seeing a lot of these PCs that don't officially support Windows 11 just going dirt cheap. I've been scooping them up and I've been flipping them into decent gaming PCs and making some good profit on it. So we're gonna go ahead, head to the Wawa like always, pick up some breakfast, and then grab this deal. Alright, so we're on I-40. It's actually a pretty easy trip. So I-95 to I-40, we're about 20 miles from my exit. It's in Wake Forest, North Carolina. So I already messaged the guy, and of course, the best nerve-wracking experience and feeling when you're doing this type of stuff is when they don't respond. Great. So questions I get asked all the time is, why do I have to leave my area to get good deals? Well, I'm in the Fayetteville, North Carolina area, and I guess everybody wants to be a computer tech or whatever. And the deals get swooped up really quick. There's not a lot of deals, and then the other issue too is that the deals that are good, like I said, they get swooped up really quick, and it's unfortunate. And the other part too is that there are a lot of people that are selling their stuff way more than it's worth. The other day I saw an i7 4th gen system with a GTX 7880, and the guy was selling it for $600, high performance gaming PC, and there's a lot of those in my area. I see them all the time. But when I expand my scope mostly to like Wilmington, Apex, Cary, even this area, Wake Forest, I see a lot of great deals. And an hour drive is not too bad. Yeah, you might save your time and gas, but typically if I have something to do out over there, I'll make it a day event or hang out with the family. So, a lot of people say, oh, I can't find the good deals. You're gonna have to expand your scope a little bit. And if you're willing to drive at least 30 to 40 minutes, you can really make some decent money. Unless you're driving a truck like I do. Gas is expensive. But in this case, we're gonna kill two birds with one stone. So about another 15 minutes, we should be there. And hopefully this guy meets up with me and this wasn't a waste. Walmart. always a good meetup. So the guy just messaged me, and he's actually right down the road from here, so that's not too bad. Makes me feel a lot better considering that I messaged him last night and he did respond, and then I messaged him this morning before I left and I didn't get a response. I mean, considering it's an hour drive, not the best feeling. And that has happened to me where I've driven an hour and no show, and then they message me later on the end of the day, hey, I had a late night, and just forgot about it. It's like, bummer. So hopefully he should be here pretty quick and pretty soon. Like I said, this is a pretty good deal considering we have a mouse, monitor, keyboard combo. That makes it easier to sell, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. The plan after this is actually to go to a couple of comic book stores. Big into comic books lately, so go to a couple of comic book stores, take the wife to Target and a couple other stores. So yes, I drove an hour for a computer deal, but the wife wanted to come up here to the Raleigh, Cary, Wake Forest area because there's a bunch of shopping and things that she wanted to do. So it's a win-win. So let me check my messages and see where this dude's at. All right, just picked up everything, so pretty good. It's actually not too bad of a case, and I forgot to ask him how much storage is in there, but he did say it does have storage. Might be a mechanical, maybe an SSD. Does have a water cooler. That graphics card is just lame, but I did get bonuses. Check it out. Wi-Fi card. Can't beat that. And actually, now that I have a few minutes, let's just open this up and see how lucky we get. Get you guys in there. Oh, nice. I see an SSD and I see a 1 terabyte mechanical to add to the 10,000 other ones I got. 16 gigs of DDR2, Z270, Corsair AIO, Crusty, the 460. That's actually a pretty big fan for that. And honestly, this is actually not a bad looking case. Oh, we got RGB. It's like 20,000 frames per second, winning. But honestly, not a bad build at all. And we'll dive deeper, make sure it works, get more specifics out of it. And the story behind it is that it's been sitting for 6 years. So our favorite ran when parked. Gotta love those. Let's see if I can do this. Can I do this one-handed? How much computer skills do I have? Oh, look at that. Come on. Well, maybe I don't. There's our Acer monitor. I mean, stuff is real dusty. But we got the plugs, Corsair mouse, Razer keyboard, and he's doing a mouse pad, which is pretty awesome for the simple fact that I can use it for my test bench. So not a bad deal. Now let's go back inside Walmart, make sure the wife hasn't drained my bank account, and move on to our next adventure. That last place, I probably picked up more comic books than I need, but I guess you can't have too many comic books. Got Batman, I think it's the All-In. This is Carnage, Eddie Brock Carnage, and Batman Deadpool deal. Yeah, pretty cool. So now I guess to Barnes and Nobles per the missus' request. Johnny's Pizza. Gotta love him. Not too far in the area. This pizza's actually really good. Bunch of garlic nuts. So figured grab a bite to eat. Then we'll head back to the garage and test all this stuff out. All right, nice haul. So unfortunately, that was all I was able to get today. I did put out some feelers, but I do find that on the weekends, because people are out, it's their days off, it's harder to get people to meet up and respond to messages. So I initially had 4 deals lined up for this computer, but this is all we got. But still, for $100, a complete system. I mean, even though it's an i5 6th gen, we can definitely clean this up, hook this up, make a decent gaming system for a decent flip for not too bad of a profit. So we're gonna dive into that in just a little bit. I think it's insane how cheap you can get a whole computer versus buying the individual parts lately. And even some of these systems actually have decent graphics cards. This one's an RX 460, so we're gonna have to improve on that, but we'll see when we get there. So, but for now, it's late, I'm tired, I'm gonna go in, wash up, relax, and when we come back, we'll dive into this. So it's been a couple of days later, and since then we've actually picked up a bunch of stuff, and we'll be doing a separate video on that, and you'll get to see that pickup. But just to give you a sneak peek, yeah, we got a lot of stuff. But before I can even dive into that, I need to get this one up, running, make sure everything works, and get this one moved out the garage. So without any further delays, let's dive in. So let's take a look at the peripherals first. First things first, we got a Corsair mouse. Not sure of the flavor. A little sticky on the clicky, but pretty nice mouse. So I'm sure we could clean this up. This would be nice for a build. Let's see, we have the Razer Ornata Hakuna Matata Chroma. Yep. And I am not a fan of that clicky, but still, nice peripherals. This is the stuff that actually sells builds. When you add stuff like that, people like that cool stuff, especially if it has the whole RGB action. And our Acer monitor, which is pretty gross, but we're looking at an Acer LCD R240HY. So probably a 1080p. Let's see, what's the build date on this? March 2016. Little older, but you know, it's something. And I typically find that when I sell computers with monitors, a lot of times people have like a dedicated monitor or mostly their TV that they plan to use for the build, and then monitors like this, they end up using it as their secondary monitor. So that's cool. And we do have the power cord. He threw in the HDMI, so bunch of good stuff. I think the coolest thing is this. I'll probably go ahead and scrub and wash this. I mean, these are cheap. You can get it for 20 bucks, but I don't feel like paying $20 for this. So I'll just go ahead, rinse this off, make this look new. And this will be my really work mat from what I'm working on here. I did have one for a while and, well, kind of didn't survive the razor blade action. Unfortunate. But anyways, moving on. Oh, this case is a little heavy and a little noisy too. Let's open up this guy and let's see what's inside. So it is an NZXT case because it says NZXT. I think it's a controller. Not sure what revision it is. It does have RGB strips on the side, which is pretty awesome. And the reason why I say pretty awesome, because folks, like I've talked about, RGB does sell. So it's a Z270, and I think it was an i5 6th gen. We'll have to double check with that. The real main weak sauce of this build is actually our graphics card, because it's only an RX 460, which is not great, not at all. On the plus side up here, we do have a Wi-Fi AC Blue Shadow, so that's nice. That's definitely bonus stuff. Let's open up the back. See what else goodness we have. Ooh, nice indent. She's a little tight back there. I really squeeze on those cables. I will say, I mean, considering this is actually a pretty decent build. Ooh, we got more storage than I thought. Okay, I'm liking what I'm seeing. There wasn't a lot of information on this. This mostly, so I did talk to the guy afterwards, And one of his reasons for selling it for $100, really cheap, was that it doesn't have Windows 11 support. And I did mention to him the Linux option and also the Rufus bypass for it, but he was like, nah, don't feel like tinkering with it. So, okay. I try to be fair to people. I mean, sometimes people will get rid of things because they don't know. This only has one screw holding it, so that's cool. It's not even the right screw. Oh, I hate when they do stuff like this. And the reason why I say that is because they end up stripping the threads, and that's definitely no bueno. And I can't find my screwdrivers. But actually, the other day, there was a computer deal I went to pick up. Because same scenario, a computer like this, I think 6th, 7th gen, no Windows 11 support, something like that. And I did tell the guy about Rufus and Linux, and he was like, I didn't know that. And then he decided not to sell me the PC, and that's cool. I'd rather educate somebody instead of them wasting money. But folks, I got a pretty good score, if it works. 1 terabyte SSD. That's like worth $1,000 right now, I think, with the inflation price of storage and memory. So that's pretty sweet, because we could possibly, depending on the size of this one, we could probably repurpose that in another build. And that's kind of how you do it. You know, you take a mega build like this that was older, and, you know, use what you need, and then the other stuff, use it for other stuff that you need. So that's pretty sweet. And if I'm being honest, I really like this case. I might consider swapping this case out. Once again, screws that probably should not be used. Well, at least these are the right thread pitches, but he kind of went in the wrong way. I know cross threads are better than no threads, but I mean, really? I'm willing to bet. Let's see. Place your bets now. I'm going to say 120 gig. And what's behind door number 1? 120 gig. So that's fine. Which realistically, a drive like this with a 1 terabyte Western Digital Blue, they actually work good for budget builds. So that might be something I entertain for this. We'll see. I don't know which route I'm going to go. But other than that, actually not too bad. Now, what kind of power supply do we have here? Corsair. Can we see it? Oh, CX750. I actually have a pretty decent power supply, so we're winning. A 1 terabyte SSD, a 750 power supply. Come on, get back in there, buddy. Actually, a pretty nice case. This case would clean up real nice. Yeah, not too bad. Now, as far as anything else, we got NZXT fans in the front, which to be expected. This is a Corsair, I think it's a 140 millimeter, which I'm curious. 3-pin. 3-pin. And it looks like we got a 240 Corsair AIO, which is kind of there. I'm really not sure how it gets its airflow. Maybe from up here. That's what I would assume on the case. I don't know. And now let's check out this memory. DDR4. And yeah. No stickers? No stickers. Let's see. No M.2 for the motherboard. Z270 series. Asus. I think it's a Prime board. Can I see it? Yeah, Prime Z270A. So actually, not too bad of a board. Those Prime boards are actually pretty decent. So that's what we got. Let's make sure these are tight. Everything actually looks pretty decent in it. So I think what I'm going to go ahead and do is just get the duster and blow this thing out, because it's pretty dusty. And I think this just pops off like this. Ooh, tight. Oh yeah, she is dusty. And he did inform me that this thing sat in a closet for like, I think, a year or two. But unless your closets are incredibly dirty, I'm pretty sure that all this dust is from normal use. I mean, the most interesting part, I know you can see it, but I mean, there's dust like in between that right there. That's kind of weird. Never seen it like that. Before we switch to installing Windows 11 and everything, these fans gotta go. Fortunately, in a recent parts pickup that I just came back from yesterday, the dude gave me like a ton of fans, which is pretty cool. I do have fans, but I'm starting to run low of actually decent ones. And I don't like using the low end ones. I mean, you can, but I don't like selling computers with loud fans. And I think that's pretty much all I have left. So he hooked me up with some good ones. You know, 4-pin action, that type of stuff. All right, let's see. Where does this go? That go? Hey, geez. We found one. Oop, don't want that to fall out. There's another one. Come on. Well, I mean, they just don't want to leave. I know you guys have been together for a while, but it's time to move on. You've served your purpose. You're no longer needed. There we go. NZXT fans, you served your purpose. Thank you for everything you've done for this computer, but it's time to put you in retirement. So this is kind of weird because the 240 AIO should probably fit right here if I was to, and they put it up there. I'm not sure if this top panel comes off, maybe. Come on out. Yeah, there we go. All right, so, man, this case has like all this sound dampening. Pretty nice. And my other reason for getting up here, so either the power button doesn't work or it wasn't plugged in properly. I'll be honest, I didn't pay attention. So we're just gonna go ahead and spray some electronic contact cleaner. Doesn't take much. And you just kind of there we go, should be enough. So that actually feels a lot better, and I think that was one of the main issues with this. Pretty cool. And all that dust is probably what got stuck in here, which might be causing this not to work properly. We'll see. This looks like it is replaceable. There's 2 Phillips screws up here that hold this little board down. But I've had more success using electronic cleaner for these type of switches. So that's what we're gonna hope for. All right, should be a lot better. Let's get this. See how that button feels. Oh, it feels nice. Yep, feels good. Some isopropyl alcohol. Let's just wipe this up. We're not doing a complete restore and refurb just yet for this because I don't think I'm gonna use this case for this computer. Number one, I kind of like it. And number two, I think I could use it for something else I need it for personal. And I do have a case that this could go in and would actually still look pretty decent. So we're just kind of cleaning what I'm messing with, making sure everything else works before we go ahead and make a decision. If that makes sense. Probably not, but you know what I mean. But then again, this case with the RGB goodness and everything that it does have, it sells itself. And I think the other case I have doesn't have RGB goodness. And hear me out, folks. I talk a lot about RGB, but that is what sells these computers. And if you guys flip computers or familiar or, you know, do that type of stuff, that sells. There are more people that like RGB than don't. And it's primarily because, you know, kids and they like the colors and all that type of good stuff, which, hey, that's fine, to each their own. I personally don't care for it. I'm more of a simple man, you know, no color or just one solid, nice white color. I do like that on my builds. And then the other issue I run in with RGB is that the software sometimes could be glitchy. Now, OpenRGB actually works really good. That's one software I do use, but even that sometimes has its limitations. So when I do a build, I try to sell it with RGB that you can use a remote for. That way you don't have to have no extra software, because more times than not, I run into this. A customer does a Windows update. The RGB software did not like that update. And then now they're stuck with Rainbow Puke instead of the whole customization that they really wanted. And then I really don't like sitting there trying to diagnose RGB software. And most times, I usually tell my customers, listen, you know, RGB software is not covered under my warranty. If it doesn't work or you have an issue with it, that's on you, because I do not like messing with that stuff. So yeah, that's my 2 cents. So it's been 2 weeks since I've actually tinkered with this computer. I got it up and running, got it cleaned out, and we're gonna talk about a bunch of changes and some issues I ran into it, but just wanted to show, this is the table, and I got a ton of cool stuff on it that I was able to pick up, and another parts pickup that I was able to get. Also, there's something there that is really cool, something I've been chasing after for 3 years with the same seller on the Facebook Marketplace that I was finally able to score it. So cool videos coming, definitely stay tuned. So before I kind of walked away from this and went and did a whole bunch of other stuff, went on vacation, was pretty awesome, feeling great. I got this thing cleaned up and we had to make some changes. So first, I was able to fix the power button. It was just an issue of kind of cleaning the contacts with some contact cleaner. BW100 works great, so the power button is fixed. It just would not turn on, just really weird. Stuff gets in there, they get gummy, it happens. Also, I decided I'm gonna go a different route with this computer. We are gonna see how well it performs as is, but we do have to do some change ups. First things first, well, we now have a 1 terabyte SSD, and I was actually able to cannibalize it from another computer I got from the used parts hustle. And the reason why is that I went with the 120 gig SSD with the 1 terabyte, and when I was installing games and running the computer, it just felt slow, and the games and the load time was just not ideal. So we scratched that. We got a 1 terabyte, that should be a lot better. Also, I did find an 8 gig stick of DDR4 memory that was able to pop in there. So it's 2 4s and an 8, 16 gigs. Yes, they're a little mismatched, but I guess the job done for now. They are the same speeds, so it should work pretty good. And like I said, I'm gonna be changing a few things up on this case, and I'll talk about that in just a sec. So let's dive in and let's see how well Fortnite performs. Now, I'm only gonna test Fortnite primarily because this is gonna be one of those budget Fortnite PCs. This is the ones that I get a lot of requests for around the holidays, especially for the price range that I try to flip this for. But I am using 1080p low settings, and just here we're about 105 frames per second. And in case I didn't mention, we are rocking the RX 480 in this system. It's old, yeah, it's old, but maybe it might not be so terrible. We'll find out. Now, I was gonna run it with the 8 gigs, but 8 gigs just, it doesn't cut it anymore, folks. But let's see if we could get into a battle royale, play a game,
and see if it's a playable experience. All right, so we're on Fortnite, 1080p, low settings. Not sure what to expect with this RX 480, but I think it should be okay. So we're just kind of, walking around, 70-ish frames per second, and obviously we're gonna get some dips as we get into a more intense scene, but so far pretty decent. There is room to tweak the settings. I kind of just went with the automatic ones that the game allows you to do, and yeah, I mean, it works. Looks pretty good. I will say no stutters, which that's surprising considering with this graphics card. Could be that the GPU and the CPU just kind of work well together. I see stutters when you have a lot of bottlenecking going on, but considering that we're pegged out at 100% on both of them, I mean, they're just happily being overstressed. But considering, actually not bad. You can actually play this game with this graphics card and it works pretty decent. So RX 580 has some room if you're looking to get your feet wet in a budget system. 570 would be a lot better, or anything more newer, obviously. But I mean, considering this system works pretty well, I just wanted to make sure it was stable, it can play Fortnite. And now with all that information, let's go ahead and let's dive into what the plans are for this system moving forward. Let's talk about what we're gonna do. First things first, $120, complete system, mouse, monitor, keyboard. That is actually a pretty good deal, even though this is a little old. There's a lot of good stuff in it. Number one, the storage drive, 1 terabyte, costs as much as the computer. It's one of those Samsung 840 ones. It's supposed to be a pretty decent drive on that, so that's a win for me because I can use it for another project, but I mean, the drive alone is a win. Not to mention that came with a gaming keyboard, gaming mouse, Corsair, Razer. We'll clean this up, it'll look really nice. Nice selling features for the system when I do list it up for sale. And when you throw in a monitor, people like that too. And if they don't like the monitor, I've seen people actually use these as secondary monitors and get themselves something nicer. So, hey, if it works, it works. Now, as far as this, I'm keeping this case for 2 reasons. Number one, this is a really good case. I like it. It's gonna work good for what I wanna use it for. But the main reason is that although this is a good case, people like the aesthetics of the RGB. They want a tempered glass. They want to be able to see more into it. They want customizable colors. So I do have a case that I got pretty cheap that I'm going to go ahead and throw all this stuff in there. And I'm going to keep this for me. Primarily, like I said, I really like this case. I think it's a cool case. NZXT, I forget what model it is, but mostly for the fact that I do need to set up like a server, NAS type deal. Haven't decided which way I want to go yet with it. It has provisions for 5 3.5 drives. We're missing 2 of the sleds, but I was looking online and people 3D print them, so I might consider that. I have seen them on eBay, so whatever is cheaper, that's the way I'm gonna go. But I really like this case and I'm definitely gonna keep it. Now, as far as changes, number one, this Corsair AIO, it's gotta go. Reason being is that the pump is making noises, and I know people say that you can take it apart and fill it up and all that type of stuff. I'm not big into that. You take a chance of compromising the gasket, the chances of leak increases. So I have some air coolers that will work, that would actually be a lot better, and I don't have to worry about this thing coming back for overheating issues because this old pump is just, not cutting it anymore. Now the graphics card, the RX 480, it works okay. It gets the job done, but probably, and I have a bunch of these, a 1660 Super. I'll pop that in there and that would actually give better performance for the gaming aspect of it. And as far as the memory, I'm probably gonna have to go with this option over here. Number one, DDR4 has gotten expensive for a decent kit. I have experimented with some of the cheaper ones, like ADATA. That was one that I did use a couple of weeks ago, and a couple of other cheaper brands. Yes, you can get like 8 gigs for $40 or 16 gigs for $60, something like that. I can't remember exact prices, but I've used some of those cheaper brands and I've actually run into stability issues with it, so I'm not a huge fan of using it. And if you want to put a decent stick of memory in there, don't cheap out on your memory. That could break the build, but we do have 16 gigs. Even though this one is different, all the speeds are the same and it works fine. So that is the route we're going to go with this. So now when I was working on this thing, I did run into some issues in this project. So I was gone for about 2 weeks before I was able to get back into this. And I've actually spent the day working on this computer. And at one point I really thought I got a busted computer. Now, the seller did disclose that it does run slow, which was the reason why he was getting rid of it. But the reason why it was running slow was not because there was something wrong with the computer. It was something else that was totally different that I never seen happen and I missed. So I put it together, I installed Windows 11, and the thing was just slow. And yes, this thing doesn't natively support Windows 11, but it was just really slow. Got rid of Windows 11, put in Linux, and I was still having the same issues. So then I got rid of the 120 gig SSD, the 1 terabyte mechanical drive, popped in a 1 terabyte SSD, and it was still slow. So now I'm thinking bad memory, swapped out the memory, still the same issues. Now I'm down to the motherboard or the CPU. Temperatures are fine. I did a BIOS update, and this thing had me puzzled. So I took the computer, put it to the side, started working on another one that I needed to get done, and that computer started working real slow. And I'm like, wait a minute. And I had to think about the common denominator between working on the other computer and this one. I was using the same mouse and keyboard. So that got me thinking, could it be that the keyboard or the mouse is causing an issue? Did this on a whim. So I unplugged the mouse and everything seemed to be working fine, minus the fact that I didn't have a mouse. I plugged in another mouse and everything is working perfectly fine. So then I'm like, is this a bad mouse? Yes, a bad mouse was causing all these issues, but not like it was slowing down the system or anything like that. It wasn't that it was going slow, it was just that the double click feature was not registering. So every time I would double click something, I would have to click, 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 and then it would wait and it would wait and it would wait and nothing would happen, kind of like it was freezing. And then sometimes it would register the double clicks and sometimes it wasn't. And it was doing the same thing on the right clicks. So I'm assuming that the computer is running slow, there's an issue with it, but all in all, it was the mouse was being defective. I didn't record it because I was just deep into this. I took this thing apart, cleaned it with some more contact cleaner, got the double clicks feeling a lot better, and this thing works perfect. So I swapped out the drives and did a whole bunch of diagnostics and stuff unnecessarily just because the mouse was not registering both clicks properly. Never seen anything like that. I mean, I've had issues with mouses not working properly, but I never would have thought that to check the mouse. And it wasn't that the computer was running slow, it's just it wasn't picking up the double clicks. It would pick up the first one, but it wouldn't pick up the second one, and it was so intermittent, it made it feel like the computer was just running slow. So that's a new one for me, something definitely to add to my arsenal of things to consider when I have computer issues, but that was a first. But the good news is, the mouse is running fine, no issues, it's just dusty and crusty. And the guy said it did sit in a closet, so it could have just gotten dusty from there, or maybe it was dusty from his years of use. Who knows? But either way, the computer now is running fantastic. So to wrap up this video, $120 for all this is a pretty good deal. Number one, and I've talked about this in my videos, cannibalizing computers. I'm gonna repurpose this case for something I need it for. I am gonna repurpose that 1 terabyte Samsung one. The 1 terabyte that I did put in here is just a cheaper model that I've bought in bulk, and they actually work pretty good, but I'll keep the nicer one for myself. But all in all, pretty decent system. Yes, it's an i5 6th gen. It doesn't support Windows 11 natively, but you have the options of running Linux or running the bypass for Windows 11, and the computer actually runs great. Once we pop in a 1660 Super, this will make a great budget starter system. A bit of headroom on there if they want to upgrade it, but even though I'm seeing a lot of these computers pop up real cheap because people are just saying e-waste and doesn't support Windows 11, there is still some good value. Number one, the parts aspects of it, or number two, there are ways to get these computers running and keep them running with Windows or using another operating system. So with all that being said, comment down below, let me know your thoughts, concerns, criticisms. For $120, was this a good deal despite being how old it is? What upgrades would you do to this system? And for those of you guys that just go out and buy used parts or just kind of, stay in that world, are you seeing a lot of older systems popping up for dirt cheap? I will say this, at least in my area and the surrounding cities and counties, I'm seeing a lot of these older 6th gen, 7th gen systems selling for dirt cheap with Windows 10. And one of the things I am seeing in the ads is that it doesn't support Windows 11 and the computer runs slow. I've been snagging those things up for parts and still flipping them as budget gaming PCs. If you like this video, definitely hit the like button, subscribe if you're not, and as always, we'll see what we come up with next.